Hello! Today I'm talking with Ceri. We talked about how losing a year of her life has changed how she shows up today, the great support system she has, and running on tea. I'm Yves from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it.
Are you a Scrum or Agile enthusiast? Would you like to grow in your role? Or would you like to connect with peers around the world? Then the Online Scrum Master Summit is just for you. My name is Esther Schmid, and I'm the main host of this global summit. You can join us from the 17th to the 19th of June, all virtually. So join us because we have great keynotes, insightful talks, and hands-on workshops. So go to osms25.com and register for free. Looking forward to see you there.
Hello everyone, and hello with me. I have Ceri. Is that how I should pronounce your name?
Ceri.
Ceri, of course, I should know. I should know better. So welcome, Ceri. I'm recording this from Belgium. And where are you located at this particular moment?
So I'm in Keynsham, which is in between Bristol and Bath in the west of the UK.
In the west of the UK. And for me, on my side, it's 10 minutes after 8 o'clock in the evening. And what's the time on your side?
It's just gone past 7 p.m. for me.
So because that's how we roll, a time zone difference of just 1 hour. And but yeah, that's thanks to technology that we can do it both from our preferred locations. But yeah, a time zone difference that we're still able to do this together. Before we jump into the questions, Gary, what do you prefer people to know about you? What do you want people to know about you?
I think it's really important that people know that I run on tea. I only function with caffeine. And I am a self-confessed brain nerd. So as long as you accept those two things about me, we're going to get on just fine.
All right. And so, well, that's the advantage of recording where you want. You can have all the tea with you the way you want it, the tea made the way you want it, so that works as well. So yeah, that might be important for people to know. I actually have my own team next to me, so so that works fine. I used to be.
Partners in crafting.
Yeah, I used to be a coffee addict, but I tried to actually stop coffee, and so yeah, I made myself a cup of tea as well. So perfectly aligned. Okay, let's jump into that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in the way you are?
So I think more and more people are hearing this about me, but I won a bout of meningitis back in 2014, closely followed by encephalitis, and then that gifted me memory loss and needing to use a Zimmer frame to walk with. So I lost about a year of my life, and I think that it delivered a really important, a really valuable life experience. It changed my perspective. I went from someone who held tightly to everything, chased everything at a million miles an hour, to someone who still chases things at a million miles an hour. But I try as much as I can and wherever I can to let go. And I think that letting go has had a huge impact on who I am, how I show up, and who I'm able to be in my work as well.
Yeah, I can imagine if you have such a disease, if I can call it like that, you literally have to let go because that's about the only thing you can do at that moment, I guess. And if you are someone that wants to go a million miles an hour after everything, I can imagine that at that moment, yeah, what goes through your mind at that moment? If you want to share, of
no,
course.
that's absolutely fine. So I think it's there's a deep sigh that comes with needing to relearn, and this wasn't the first time that I needed to let go, but it was the first time that I think the message was brought home so forcefully, so impactfully, and so decisively. So I'd had a couple of experiences as a child where my plans did not work out the way that I wanted to. So I'd already had those experiences, but had sort of been someone who pushed on through and forced my way through the path regardless. Like, I will go through the bramble thicket. I don't care how spiky the thorns are or how thick the weeds are. I'll find a way through. And this taught me that sometimes you need to just let the thicket grow and go around, or find a different path, or choose a different destination.
Yeah, I can imagine, because the thinking there is a setback, but then having such a disease, it's basically your body telling you like, no, you can't push through. That's how it feels, I think. And were you surrounded at that time by people that were able to tell you that message, like it will be okay? Is that what happens then?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I've got an extremely supportive husband who gave me the space to recover fully. Supported the entire household. So I had 2 young children at the time. So he became both parents whilst working full time. We had a fantastic support network of friends and family that mucked in and helped out so that we could keep going. And I think that support system to give me the space to recover was absolutely essential. I mean, that said, I still was stuck trying to be that person, still trying to be better and to be well for the sake of everybody else. I could see how much pressure it was putting on everybody else. And actually, it was the trying to be better that then made me get even more unwell. I then landed myself with encephalitis. So that's whole brain swelling. I was in Southmead Hospital in the neurology ward for about a month, and that was what led to the Zimmer frame. So by trying to be better sooner, that was actually what made me have to take several steps back. It made me so much worse, and that was the crux of the lesson. You can't force yourself to be better. You can't force yourself to be well. It's just not possible, and actually it can hurt you twice as much.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing, because I can imagine that at the first step you see indeed everybody around you suffering. You, of course, when you're a parent of young children, you don't want it to fall everything on your partner and whoever's helping out. But then, going too fast, it never speeds up recovery. Yeah, it's like
or
you
indeed anything. I mean, it's a great lesson for all of the things that we do as professionals, right? I think it's a lesson with all the ramifications.
And I think it's something that most of us, we know in theory, but knowing in theory and actually realizing how bad it is, that's a second, or that's another level, I would say. So I can definitely imagine how it influenced you. And so when that happens and when you finally recover, how is it then for you? Because I can imagine that you were that person going million miles an hour. You noticed that, okay, recovering, I tried it too fast, then it made things worse. Now I'm finally getting better. And what happens then? Were you scared to go again too fast, or were you eager to go faster, or how was that?
I don't think I had much choice in how fast I went. So my particular kind of meningitis came with quite significant memory issues. I had very limited energy reserves. So there was a limit to what I realistically could do. So I had to prioritize and choose quite carefully where I wanted to spend my energy. I was an English teacher before I got ill. And I couldn't stand up and I couldn't remember anything. So I had to reappraise.
Wow.
And I had to accept that, it was going to, so I changed career. and moved to supporting a team. I'd done some project management as a summer job at university, so I went and found myself a project management role. Yeah, I had to just slow down and be really limited on what I took on. So I was studying at the time as well, so I had to put that on pause. I actually stopped doing that study and changed my degree to a different one later on, because I wasn't able to continue with that career path anymore. So it became irrelevant. It sort of I think it forced me to reappraise what I wanted, where I was going, and how I was going to get there. And I think the slowing down helped me to do that much more intentionally than otherwise perhaps I might have done.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine, but I didn't even realize that you had to even change careers and change all these kind of things. So it's really...
start from scratch. Yeah.
Wow, that really is, restarting all over, and that already with a young family, with 2 young children. So wow, I'm impressed that that you did all of that. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you, or could have become of you? We already discovered that you were a teacher, so you moved to where you are now. Were there other things destined to be?
I mean, I always wanted to be a jockey, but I come from a family of people who are 6'5" down to 6 foot. So I think jockey was never going to be the right career path for me. If it wasn't for that, I would quite happily be racing horses. Going fast and looking after big animals delights me. Unfortunately, I'm also really allergic to everything related to horses, so that's not a viable career path. I found that out after I realised I couldn't be a jockey. I tried working in a livery stables as a groom, and that's where I discovered how horribly allergic I was to everything horse related. Wow. So that was the previous career path that I'd let go of. I like to think I'd be a mediocre racing driver. I like to put my foot down. I don't think I'm particularly good, and when I have been on track days or gone go-karting, I tend to just lose my competitive edge when I'm with people that I know, and I descend into giggles. But when it's people that I don't know, I'm a very focused, very good driver. So I like to think that's an alternative career path.
But like you say, if you have to compete. Well, at some point you get to know your competitors, so that would be kind of strange if you then don't compete really with against them.
Yeah, I can't compete with friends unless we're playing Settlers of Catan. That's the only time, and then I'm out to destroy everybody.
Okay, so there is some competitive part even with friends. That's still hiding, but in you, but not for driving.
Only when it's very low stakes.
And but how did you discover that the driving part? How is it that's something that you say like, hey, this could be something that could have been a possibility for me?
Yeah. So I remember as a child being sat in the back of the car with my dad driving and going down the motorway and being really cross because all of the other cars that were overtaking my dad's car were going to get there first.
And at what age were you at that moment? Is that a 3-year-old or is that a 15-year-old?
7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, quite young.
And did you talk to your father about this? Like, go faster.
Yeah, absolutely, I did. And my uncle actually taught me to drive when I was 12 years old. So
wow.
Yeah, I've been driving from a very young age. My driving instructor was he was Hampshire Police's advanced driving instructor, so he was quite a good tutor as well.
Was he able to tell you like, okay, don't push too much? Because were you at 12 still wanting to drive fast then?
I was definitely wanting to drive fast, but with limited resources, I'm not one for going out and stealing cars. So it's only on my grandparents' land that I was able to do that. but yeah, so I waited until I was the right age. But yeah, he taught me to do really nifty, really quick gear changes, which is something I'm still very proud of my ability to to change gear very quickly.
Wow, that's indeed
I'm hot
a
off the lights.
That is indeed a nice gift if that's something you like, and especially I guess if you learn that from a very young age in a safe environment, because I guess if you say it's on the land of your grandparents, that of course it's it is a safe place to do that, of course.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend driving too fast. Obviously, day to day we abide by speed limits.
But that's why it is a career path. If you then if you're on a place where that is allowed, that's
a
whole different kind of
love a track day.
So that's again something that is very interesting to discover, and so that could have been that I didn't want to say second, because it might be the third career, because you had already that career as a teacher. So let's go to that third question. What do you consider your biggest challenge, or at least the biggest challenge you want to share openly on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually autistic, and so one of the biggest challenges for me is coping with change. And as you might have noticed from my stories so far, there's been quite a lot of change throughout my life.
I was about to say, that's
and so why that's actually a good thing. I think what I've learned so far is that change is the only constant, and so when you accept that, it doesn't make the change itself easier to deal with, but it makes it easier for me to rationalize it. And so I think even that discomfort with change has made me notice much more just how much change is an everyday part of our lives. Even the smallest of plans can go awry at the last minute. I mean, this podcast, we were supposed to record this 2 days ago, and we were stymied by a stomach bug, courtesy of my 7-year-old. Everything that we plan can topple at the last minute, even in the middle of. Nothing is certain, nothing is fixed. And I think there's a certain freedom in being forced to let go of things, even when things are uncomfortable. I think it's particularly a good thing. I think it makes me much more compassionate when I'm dealing with people in my day-to-day work. I have much more compassion, much more empathy, much more understanding of just how hard it is for people to go through the changes that we often ask them to as Agile professionals, and actually to have some understanding of just how much that hurts, of how stressful that can be, how scary, how threatening, how worrying, whatever it is that those emotions are that those people are feeling. I can't understand exactly how they're feeling, of course, but I have some inkling of just how much that discomfort is.
Yeah, I recognize that indeed, if every kind of change, depending on how well people deal with change, but it can have a huge impact. And in a lot of what we do, we help accommodate people through the changes that happen, and indeed the better you're aware of the impact that would have on yourself, the better you have more empathy for the other people, and it might help in these kind of conversations and helping out with people like that. That's indeed. And like you said, the change actually, there was a very small change this week. We moved it just 2 days, and it worked perfectly fine on my agenda. And I can still imagine that for you, like, oh, now I have to tell someone, like, okay, that I haven't met, that, well, there is a small change in my plans, in my agenda, and things might move indeed. And that is part of life. Luckily, in this case, we had the tools that made it very easy for you to make that change, and so that way, we can make it work for both of us without much interaction, because the tool basically took care of that. And that is something that is then good. For you yourself, when you say that the changes that happen in your life, how would I say? When did you notice that you have trouble with these kind of changes?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think even from those very first career redefining experiences, that was a deeply uncomfortable thing to go through. I was a horse obsessed child. I was absolutely determined that I was going to be working with horses in some capacity when I was a grown up. And so even from that very first realization onwards, that was heartbreaking, really, to have decided at a young age who it is that you're going to be, and then to have that certainty, that conviction taken away from you. And I think it left me floundering for a very long time. Just that one initial change to my plan. So I think it was apparent from a very young age. Otherwise my life was quite stable. So it wasn't like there were major changes otherwise, I would say, in my formative years. So that would be the only real indicator, I think.
Yeah, I can well, I can only imagine that if you as a child, you really have an idea, this is what I want to do. And then it turns out that your body is not at the specificities that require that job. But then even more you discover later on, like, oh, I'm even allergic to that animal that I would love to drive. That's I can imagine that really makes it hard as a child to.
I think so, because I think it had formed quite a large part of my identity. So I think having to let go of that idea of who I was and who I was going to be, it was a real challenge from quite a young age.
But from that story, I also assume that you never had much contact with horses, because you didn't discover earlier on that you were allergic to it. Is that a correct assumption?
I discovered by going horse riding. I used to go horse riding regularly, and it was when I then wanted to work sort of helping to muck out the horses and work around the stables in order to get extra free rides. I could sit on the back of them, no problem, but as soon as I was actually in and around hay and straw and all the rest of it, it went horribly wrong. So never mind. So it goes.
Yeah, exactly. But that is indeed part of the discovery that, hey, your life is not going to be run the way you think it's going to be, and so that's indeed is a big challenge. But then again, you discover more and more, like, okay, I now learn that I work with people that need to change, and then okay, that's a good thing, because I learned all of that. So that's and this is how life brings us the things that we need to have, and brings us some of these experiences. I want to move to that next question about what drives you, because I've noticed, like, if you're at a young age, you're very passionate about, okay, I want to go, my father's car should go faster, or I want to have an idea of what I will be. That for me sounds like very passionate about certain things, very driven. Do you know where that drive or that passion is coming from originally?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know, but it is a really consistent theme. Everything that I've always done for as long as I can remember has been about going fast, existing within chaos, and finding calm in that chaotic space. Fast driving, riding horses, show jumping. Even horses are slightly chaotic, unpredictable beasts. yeah, like the changes that have happened, needing to switch careers, reframing where I'm going. I think maybe there's something familiar in it for me. But yeah, no, I don't know. In terms of what drives me, though, I would actually say I'm hugely motivated by praise and reward and appreciation. I love a pat on the head much more than I love being paid for doing the work that I've done, which can be problematic. And I don't think that's got anything to do with going fast or otherwise, but feeling like I've done a good job, feeling like I've been of benefit, of help to someone somewhere, made a difference. That's deeply rewarding and hugely motivating.
Yeah, again, that I think this is something that, well, many people might have, that they might feel that, being appreciated is driving, I would say, a lot of people. So I'm not surprised that you say that, because I think it's something that is true for many people. That's I think it's a good recognition for yourself to know, like, hey, this is something that that does drive me, both in good and bad ways. Because if people want to abuse it, just knowing that, hey, this is what they're doing might be helpful as well. And okay, if you feel that you're not appreciated, you can actually explain it to people, like, hey, you know what, I might not feel really well appreciated here, because that doesn't happen. Is that something that a conversation that you do with the people you work with?
I think I certainly give people positive feedback when they offer me praise. I'm quite happy to say thanks very much, and by all means let me know. But for me, it's not just praise. So I find it immensely valuable even to have someone take the time to care enough about what I'm doing, to even tell me when I need to improve something, when I could be doing something better. I think feedback is just one of the most immensely valuable, powerful things that we've got to get more praise, to get more recognition, to get more appreciation. If people are able to tell me when I'm not doing things as well as I could be, then that gets me closer towards that. So I think it goes both ways. It doesn't have to be just people telling me I've done a great job, but also people telling me how I could do a better job. I find that hugely satisfying.
Yeah, definitely, I can recognize that. And is that then something that is easy for you to praise other people when you work with other people?
Absolutely. I love telling people when I think they've done a great job. I love cheerleading people, especially when I think people lack confidence or have less confidence in their own abilities. I love offering support and reassurance and encouragement. I try not to be condescending with that. I know that there's always a risk when you're trying to offer someone praise or cheerleading that that they might see it as condescending. So I think that's a careful line to tread, and I definitely don't get that right all the time. But yeah, my intention is always to offer support and recognition, and to give people the good feeling that I see that they're giving other people. I think that deserves to be given back to people.
Yeah, that there is indeed sometimes that risk. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because it's giving praise sometimes isn't seen in the right way, and sometimes it's because we might be saying the wrong things. But I think if we do it with the right intention, helping out people, saying, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing, I think that is an important thing that I think all of us, we can appreciate if people tell us that we're doing a good job. So that's indeed a nice addition to add that to that. Let's move to that next question. What do you consider your biggest achievement? And before we jump into that question, what I've noticed is when I ask this to people, Basically, this is your moment to brag and to be really proud. Is that easy for you to brag?
No, I'm deeply uncomfortable with bragging. I don't hold myself as being better than anyone else. I have different skills, but that doesn't mean that I'm better. So I'm always apprehensive about.
So wait, well, I want to go into that because when you say I'm bad at bragging, it kind of gives you the impression that that means that you feel better than someone else when you brag about something.
Yeah, I always want everyone to. I want people to feel comfortable around me. I'm not here to issue a threat unless we're playing Settlers of Catan, in which case I'm here to crush you. But then I am better than you, and you had it coming. But aside from that very specific instance, I want people to feel comfortable around me. I want people to see me as someone dependable and safe and trustworthy. It's integral to the job that I do, and so holding myself as superior in any way, I'm happy to. I'm not shy about knowing the things I know. I'm not shy about having read the things I've read or researched the things that I've researched and learned the things that I've learned, and from the people and the places that I've learned them from. I'm not at all shy about that. And when I have information or insight, I'm not shy about sharing that. But I don't ever feel the need to do so in a way. I hate being a look at me kind of a person. I'd much rather be a look at this, learn from this, use this. I hope that helps kind of a person. So yeah, I don't need to seek the accolades so much. It makes me deeply uncomfortable, really, to do that.
Yeah, and I can see that, and I think it's also something that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon. That's a little bit also why I'm asking this extra question, because indeed that is important to recognize that it's not always feel comfortable for people. But let's move then to that real question. What do you consider your biggest achievement?
I think my biggest achievement is moving from someone who struggled to see anything other than the negative in life to being someone who is always able to find the positive. From being someone who struggled to cope with my reality to someone who embraces my reality. I think that's it's been a profound change for me. I think it's had a positive onward effect on the people around me, my family, my friends. It's positively impacted my career. It's positively impacted my well-being. And if I look back at myself in my earlier years, I think it's a huge achievement, frankly. I don't think achievement needs to be it doesn't need to be accolades and rewards and recognition. Sometimes actually it can just be finding a better way of living.
I really agree that this is why, for me, I love to asking this question, because what I've noticed that with the diversity of people that I'm talking to, that it goes in all kind of directions, and sometimes it is a big work achievement, and sometimes it's a life achievement, like okay, for multiple kind of things. But that's why I like so much when people like you bring something totally different, like okay, I'm in a better space in my life, I think is a way to say it, but then in a very particular way. What triggered that change for you?
Being very ill. So getting meningitis, it left me with quite significant emotional regulation issues. And I found myself in some deeply unhappy spaces. And as a result of that, I actually, I took up, I call it doodling. I just started drawing what it was that I was feeling, how it was that I was feeling when I was in the middle of, these very dark, very sad little moments. And the process of actually drawing it out, it was a fascinating process of acknowledgement, acceptance, and then release. And so instead of being someone who internalized those messages and let them destroy me and destroy everything that I could be in the world, I was able to see them written down, reflect on how maybe silly or how untrue or how unrealistic those things were. And then as a result, actually let them go. And I don't think I would ever have been somebody to do that, to take the time to do that before I got ill. But it, as I say, having that time forced on you, that recovery time, you have to do something. And I wasn't able to retain anything. So it wasn't like there was any point listening to podcasts or reading anything. So I had to do something with my time to occupy myself. And that was a very life-changing thing to discover, really.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. I wasn't sure if I wanted to ask the question because I assumed it might have been related to that, but it could have been something else as well. So that's why I thought it was still important to keep asking that question. It's again we come back to that very first question, and of course it had a huge impact on you. When is that something that let me rephrase it. How do people around you notice that? Is that something that your partner or your extended family notice about you?
I would hope so. So I think I went from somebody who struggled to see the possibility, struggled to see the future, struggled to see what was, what I was able to do, what I could do instead. There was one route, one thing, one path, and if it wasn't that path, then I didn't know how to deal with that. And I think that the difference has come from going through this process of drawing out my deepest, darkest feelings, that actually it's recognizing that the thought in my head is a story. It's not just because I think it doesn't make it true. And I think that's something that we can quite easily get stuck on, is that belief that because I think it that makes it a fact. And we, even in our conversations with each other, we express these things. I express what I think as if it's immutable, unquestionable fact, whereas what it really is my opinion about this particular issue in this particular moment. And who knows, the same conversation a different day, I might have a completely different opinion, but I won't necessarily recognize that in the moment. And so I think realizing that all of these things are just beliefs, none of these things are fact. There's no such thing as knowing or guarantees or nothing is 100%. Understanding that and being able to let go, I think that's the thing that the people around me, I hope, will have noticed the most.
I can definitely see that. That is something that people might recognize and might notice. So that's definitely something that I hope people would recognize with you if such a change is happening. Let's move to that next question. Do you have a personal agility tip to share?
Oh, now when you say a personal agility tip, do you mean ways of applying Agile in our own lives, or do you mean an agility tip in terms of what I personally would share with people I work with?
I purposely don't define that, again, for more variety of answers. I had both of these answers, and I like them just as much. I had even answers that go in completely different directions. So that's again, I make the question harder for you, of course, because I don't define the context.
Yeah.
But I think it gives the viewers or the listeners much more options to learn. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I think one of my favorite tools that I've picked up from my own Agile journey is that of the retrospective. And it doesn't have to be, the sort of the pro-formed, the many different templates that you can find on LinkedIn and beyond. I think it's just that practice of taking the time to reflect on where you are, how it matches up to where you wanted to be, and what perhaps you might like to do differently as a result. I think it's so impactful and so valuable, because it doesn't have to, there's no limits on what you can apply that conversation to. There's no limits on what you can apply that thought process to. I can apply that to, at the end of this podcast, I can reflect on how it went and what I might do differently in a future podcast conversation, or I can apply it to the dinner that I've just made. In fact, every Christmas dinner we have my husband and I have a mini retrospective just to see what we might do differently next year, because we host Christmas dinner. But I mean, even my children, I've got 2 teenage daughters, both started secondary school, and even they, they've started taking an iterative approach to their projects, their school projects. We've gone through this idea of creating a working first version just to see if it's going to work, and then reflecting on what's good, what's not good, and how to do it better before they then complete their finished piece of work. And I've noticed that for them, I think it's made that process of doing their work so much better, because they don't feel the need to be driven by perfection every time. It's that idea that actually it doesn't have to be perfect. There is a version that is good enough, that can get us to where we need to go. And they wouldn't have that without that ability to reflect on what they've just done and how closely it matches what it is that they were trying to do. So yeah, for me, the retrospective is the most powerful tool that we can engage in, and I would recommend it to every single human being, whether they subscribe to Agile with a big A, Agile with little a, or neither of those things.
And when you say that you apply a retrospective for that Christmas dinner, is that something you call a retrospective with your husband, or you just say let's reflect, or how does that work?
I mean, he's a software engineer, so he's very, very well versed with the terminology. So yes, he's fully prepared for the annual Christmas dinner retrospective. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. But well, it might be because he knows the term that he might be like, no, leave work things out of our home. But what I'm hearing is that there is no problems there. That
absolutely not. No, we've got Kanban boards in our kitchen. The kids have their own chore Kanban boards. They make their own homework Kanban boards. We have a holiday Kanban board, and then retrospective at the end of our family holidays as well. So no, they're fully indoctrinated.
It's more than just the Christmas holiday. It's the Christmas dinner. It's also retrospective. So multiple kind of things. Indeed, I like that. I was asking because I do these days. I do kind of a weekly retrospective with my partner, like every I would say weekend, because it might shift days. We really reflect on how well was our week, mostly for us. But I don't call it retrospective because I'm pretty sure that my partner doesn't. Well, she doesn't come from a software background, but she would indeed have much more that feeling like, oh, but that's that work thing that you do, and you don't need to coach me, but it's really like, okay, what can we do better? And I think that's. For me, the wording is not so important, but indeed the improvement part. Let's see how we can make things better. Is indeed something that, is usually much better.
Absolutely. So yeah, with the kids, we just I asked the question, how did that go? Let's have a look at how that went. What was good about it? What would you want to be different next time?
Indeed, But that's, yeah, I love that. Well, I'm in love with retrospectives ever since I've learned them, and I've seen them that you can use them in all kind of things. So I never heard about the Christmas dinner, but now that's a good idea as well, for all kind of events that we're doing. So I really like that. And do you invite your guests to that retrospective as well? Like, do you, if they have ideas for that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we host my parents, my husband's parents, his siblings, and various cousins and aunts and uncles. So everybody takes part in the whole thing. So we have pre-planning. We sort of decide what it is that we want to make for Christmas dinner. We do, we engage with our stakeholders. What is it that people want to eat? There are girlfriends and boyfriends that come and go, so making sure that dietary needs are going to be met on the day. And then, people will want to help. They want to participate. They want to join in with the day. So we then agree, which of the various family members are going to. Who's going to do what, essentially, who's going to bring what. And then on the day itself, we've got a Kanban board with, the sort of the everything that needs doing as a pull system, so that anybody that wants to offer help, I don't have to give them direction. There's sticky notes with the next thing that's on the list ready to be done, is right there with some very simple instructions to make sure that it goes the way that I want it to go. And then at the end of it, we talk about what worked, which dishes were good, which ones would we want to see again next year. So this year just gone, we decided that celeriac mash with nutmeg and a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of cumin is actually magic, and so we want to do that again next year. The first year we did it this year, and everybody's review was good, so we'll be having that again. And my daughters think that Swede needs to go and die in a hole, but they're the only one, so sadly it'll be making an appearance next year as well.
Well, not always the stakeholders agree on something. So yeah, indeed, that is part of every project, I would say.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, I really love that the details here. Thank you for sharing that. It's really wonderful. But it shows now that indeed a retrospective, like improving things and having discussions with stakeholders, because sometimes we do retrospective or most of the time we do retrospective just with the development team, and actually in bringing involving stakeholders, we can learn a lot, and we can joke about it, but it's actually something that is valuable. You might, as a development team, not want to do that every time, but from time to time, that's really valuable. Having feedback loops or closing feedback loops.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. It's that feedback loop again. I think it's immensely valuable. If we didn't do that with all of the different family members, then it could well be that we're making something that everybody absolutely hates, and then we're forcing them to come over to our meal table each year for this big celebratory meal, and making them awkwardly sit through and very politely smile their way through a meal that half of them hate. I think that's a dreadful thing. I love, again, it goes back to this idea of feedback as a gift, as a necessary thing in order for me to feel good about what I'm putting out into the world. That feedback is an absolutely necessary thing. I feel like I should credit. So the Kanban idea for Christmas dinner, by the way, I actually got that from Kylie Yearsley. I don't know if you know her, but she's a fabulous human, and we had a lovely chat on a boat at Agile on the beach a few years back, and she was talking about using a Kanban board for Christmas dinner, and ever since then we've gone through that whole process for our Christmas dinners. So credit where credit's due. Thanks, Kylie, for that. My entire family thanks you.
But that is really important as well. We learn from different kind of people, and then it's good to mention we're the people that we're learning stuff from. So thank you for crediting her. Let's move to that next question. What have you learned about remote working?
Oh my goodness. So I actually gave a keynote at Agile on the Beach all about remote working a couple of years ago. A huge amount. I think one of the most important things that that I've learned is that you can still build immensely strong, close, constructive, productive relationships without ever having met anybody face to face. So before the pandemic, I was a part of a virtual team. So when the pandemic came along, for the organization I was working with, it was actually business as usual. So they were based in, we had some people in Cambridge, some people in Serbia, and then some people in Bristol. I've never to this day met the people in Serbia. I've only met a handful of the people in Cambridge because, you know, they happened to be, some of them happened to be in on the days when I was over visiting them. But for the rest of it, you know, we were all just virtual online, and we had solid working relationships, really good feedback loops, really great stakeholder engagement. And so I think it's really easy to dismiss how valuable, to dismiss how easy it is actually to build solid working relationships online with people. It's I think people make it into something bigger and harder than it needs to be. You don't even have to have cameras on to be able to build good relationships with people. We've been doing this with people over the phone for years. So I used to be a Samaritan, worked with the Samaritans for a number of years, and was able to have immensely deep, open, honest conversations with people over the phone. We obviously never met each other. Some of those conversations were life-changing for me and for them. And I think that as an experience was really useful to then go into this, you know, this online working world, to understand that you can have really open, really honest conversations with people. You can forge really strong relationships. You can build really great products. You can have really effective communication. You don't have to be face to face to do all of those things, and you don't have to have cameras on to be able to do those things either. Yeah, I mean, there's so much more, but I think that for me is one of the most powerful things to come out of that.
Yeah, I really like that you're stating that, because indeed, well, some people think it's not so. Could you give some tips if people want to do this remotely? Do you do things differently than physically?
I think you have to go through some of the same sorts of rituals. So there has to be some space for getting to know each other. There has to be some space for conversations that aren't related to work. And I think part of the pressure that exists with online working is that, you know, the meeting starts on the hour, it ends on the hour, and then you're rushing straight into another meeting. The company that I worked with, we actually made sure that meetings were either 45 minutes, so you always ended at 1:45 the next hour, but also that the first 5 to 10 minutes of the next meeting gave space to a personal check-in, a personal catch-up. How are you? What's been going on? Knowing each other's, you know, the names of each other's pets, or the names of each other's kids, or what people's spouses were called, or what was going on in their lives. You know, one person that we worked with was getting married whilst dealing with a really difficult personal illness. Somebody else was going through a divorce, and actually giving space to those conversations helped to forge those bonds, because there were things in those conversations that we could all identify with. And the strongest relationships come when we see that we are connected to the other people, when we see them as human beings like ourselves, not seeing them as other. And I think when we focus only on giving space to you know, business objectives and you know, tangible, measurable value-driven outcomes. That's all well and good, but if we don't give space to those personal relationships, human beings are a social species, and without those connections, without that recognition of how you and I are similar, where we overlap, where we believe the same things or feel the same things or have hurt in the same ways, we can't trust each other as much, and that then leads to all sorts of breakdowns with communication, with understanding. Is this what you meant? No, it's nothing like what I meant. Those things come when we're not giving space to those conversations. Yeah, I think they're absolutely crucial, and not making space for them is simply shooting ourselves in the foot.
I really like that, and indeed, it's something that we naturally do when we're in the office. We talk to each other. I give this example a lot, that when I'm early for a meeting or when I'm on time and other people are late, I will use that time naturally to talk to you or to whoever's in the room at that moment. We'll ask about indeed the marriage, how are the children, how is whatever happening in your life, and somehow remote. A lot of us seem to forget that. Like, okay, we're remote and we will keep doing, I don't know, whatever we want to do until the meeting starts, and we might not even use that 5 to 10 minutes that we're there waiting. Hopefully not 10 minutes, but still,
Yeah,
we won't use that time, and it's really sad that that it's happening. So it's really important to see that yeah, we can take that time, and then we can have that connection with
yeah.
with
And
other people.
especially, I think that, that first 5 to 10 minutes. So one of the things that I discovered as part of my research, both, as for this talk that I gave, but also for my studies anyway, is the importance of tone of voice. So there's a bit of a myth that we take a lot of meaning from facial expression, whereas actually we pick up a lot more meaning, a lot more understanding of how the other person that we're speaking to, how they're feeling, from the tone of voice that they're using. So, for example, if I was to start speaking to you in a slightly different way, you'd know that instantly. My face doesn't change at all, but my tone of voice is completely different. Whereas if I'm really, like if I'm speaking differently, you can hear it instantly. And again, maybe there's some mannerisms, but my face doesn't have to change in order for you to understand. So there's these really clear differences, but because they're not visible, we're processing them on a level that's beyond our conscious awareness. And because we're so beset by all of these other inputs, the things that I can see, the things that I can feel in my environment, if I'm in an office environment, all of the other things that are going on in the office around me, actually, at the start of a call, when we're all in that space together, is a great time to be listening out to how the other people on the call are sounding. Are they sounding stressed? Are they sounding distressed? Are they sounding, on top of the world? Has something happened? How's it going? What's going on? And then listening for the subtle changes in their tone of voice when they're answering, to see if there's anything that maybe, like, do I need to offer a quick coffee as a catch up after this? Like, do I catch something in your voice that says maybe I should just check in? I think there's a huge wealth of information in those minutes before the meeting starts that we probably could be making a lot better use of.
I really like that, and I think it's kind of the message you gave about the facial expression and things like that. I feel it's already leading us to that next question. What's a book that you have read? Because that's what you just said there. I think I've learned that from the book that you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So How Emotions Are Made. I have it here. It's got about 1 billion sticky notes in it. So How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. And so she is a fascinating neuroscientist. And a lot of her research focuses on explaining what emotions are, how they serve to how they function, how they serve to help us. And it was reading this and going on a course with Linda Shaw that actually prompted me to, so I'm currently partway through my master's in neuroscience, and it was the combination of these two things that really pushed me along on that journey. And so she writes about the research that was conducted by Paul Ekman, that is the basis for a lot of psychology undergraduates, a lot of the current theory around facial expressions and stuff around micro expressions. And her argument, her approach is that actually there aren't universal emotions. What there are is emotions, or sorry, there aren't universal emotions, and there aren't associated facial expressions that belie those emotions. So you can have a face like this, like a really angry face, but that face doesn't necessarily mean you're angry. That face could be, I'm really proud of what I've just done. I absolutely nailed that. Yes. That face could also mean I'm absolutely terrified right now. And I'm, doing my best to look big and hard and scary. I'm not angry. I'm actually terrified. That face could be absolute delight, and it runs the full range all the way up to really angry, but it's not necessarily really angry. Similarly, we cry both when we are sad, when we are humiliated, when we are hurt, when we're disappointed, when we're angry, when we're lonely. Like, there are so many triggers for us to have that sad crying face, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're feeling sad. And so that's what she writes about, which I found absolutely fascinating. And she talks a lot about tone of voice as well. But the reason that I liked this book so much was the insight that it gave me into what emotions are and how they help us. So a lot of people that I work with in the engineering technical space see emotions as fluffy stuff. That's the soft side of things. It's just that that fluffy bull, that fluffy rubbish. I'll try not to swear on your podcast. But actually, it turns out that emotions are nothing more than chemical signals from your brain motivating you to either move towards something that is potentially bountiful and good and beneficial, or motivating you to move away from something that is potentially harmful or threatening or detrimental, either to your immediate or your long-term well-being. And that's it. That's all they are. So every single emotional response that we have, and we have emotional responses to absolutely everything on a constant basis throughout every single day, regardless of how professional we think we're being, regardless of how logical and detached we think we're being, regardless of the facts that are put in front of us. Every single thing that we think in response to whatever we're seeing and experiencing and hearing and feeling and writing and doing and saying, everything is an emotional response. Keep doing this, stop doing this, move towards it, move away from it. And that's all emotions are. And when you understand that, they become less threatening, less silly, and more just they're data. And when we can see emotions as data, there's so much more that we can use, that we can do with them. I find that fascinating and invaluable.
I agree. It's a wonderful book to read. The example you gave about facial expression and listening to people. There were some. I keep forgetting. I should really look it up. But there was a person here on the podcast who talked about having different ways of expressing things at school and at home, because there were different cultures, and so behaving well at home meant looking down when they were berated. At home, at school, they had to watch into the teacher's eyes, or vice versa. I don't remember anymore. But that's the same person that learned at a very young age, 5-6 years old, like, hey, in the different culture, this is how I should behave. And it's much more culture bounded than most people realize. And that's indeed just one of the very few things, not few, one of the many things in that book to learn. So thank you for bringing in that book, because I think much more people indeed should read Lisa Feldman's book. That really is something that much more people should read.
Yeah, I think it will completely change your worldview.
Exactly. I want to move to that next question already. What question do you think I should also ask you, and what is the answer?
Oh, wow. Mm. So I'm someone who throughout my life has hated the thought that my fears will control me, that my
Mm.
fears will stop me from doing what I'm trying to do or what I could do. And so I've been someone who, as a result, runs towards them. So I think the question should be, what most scares you?
Mm. So do tell me, Ceri, what does most scare you?
I think it's being asked questions like, what most scares you?
Okay.
Or questions like, what should I have asked you that I haven't asked you? It's questions where I have no answer, where I have no response, just absolutely nothing. I can't offer you anything to continue the conversation, and it's not not knowing, because I'm very comfortable with not knowing. There is the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know, so I'm okay with
Mm.
that. It's more, a question is designed to continue the conversation. It's designed to deepen the connection between us, to explore the overlaps, the connections, the gaps, and what's interesting about those. And so a question where I don't have any answer is, to me, the thing that stops the flow of the conversation. And I think that feels a bit sad to me. Or maybe it's a natural end and I should lean into that discomfort and be more,
Mm.
maybe that's the next discomfort for me to step into and adapt to.
Well, for someone who's scared of these both questions, like, okay, what scares you, and what is indeed that question I should ask you, I really love your answer. I mean, this is it's circling back to the original question, but it's also shows yeah, very much inside you, and I think it's not something that you alone have. I mean, this question for me is the question that I love most, and at the same time I know it probably scares most of the people that are here, because it could go in all kinds of directions, and for me that also is also scary, because I have no idea. Well, and with many of the other questions, I have no idea what direction, but this could go about things that are not so foreseen, and sometimes very much related to the rest of the conversation, and sometimes going in a completely different direction, and that is for me also, again, some diversity, where we see how people think, and what they want to answer, because I'm very much aware that there might be other things that people don't want to have openly on a podcast. Of course, that is part of what I'm asking, of course.
Yeah.
Really wonderful answer, and actually, that means that we're going already to that very last question. Who do you think I should ask next? And
Oh,
unfortunately, I can't, because of technical difficulties today. I can't show the pictures on screen, but I know that you thought about 4 people at this particular moment.
yes, yeah. So I saw Heldani Pereira give a fantastic keynote. So he's been a director at the Samaritans and also works for Monzo, and he's just given a fantastic talk. He's a gorgeous human being, that I think you'll have a fabulous conversation with him. I've also said Chisara Nwabara. I have no idea. I'm sorry, Chisa, if I'm saying you're murdering your surname. But again, I know Chisa through multiple conferences. We're conference buddies, and just every single talk that I've seen her give has been full of insight and wisdom and passion and engagement. Again, just a fabulous human being to have a conversation with. I've also suggested Natasha Baiswala. Again, I'm murdering your surname. I'm so sorry, Tash. So Tasha and I have been having ongoing conversations for years. She's a beautiful human. Does lots of work with Francis Lalaman. I'm doing a bang-up job on everybody's surnames today, so sorry.
Well, and I didn't realize when you gave me the names, but while you were just mentioning it, actually Natasha has been already on the podcast. I realized I just looked it up, and she's number 130 for people who are inspired and want to look her up. She was published. Well, I would say a couple of weeks ago. I think we're at 167 that I'm publishing now. So 130 is half a year ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So definitely, I will add a link to the show notes as well for people who want to learn more about her. And then you had one last person that you wanted to bring.
Yeah, so I also said Henny Bird. I've known Henny from just a chat group that we're actually both in, and she's been immensely supportive of various things that I've tried over the years, has given me just some of the most valuable, helpful feedback, and again, just is a wonderful person to spend time in a room with. And I do feel a bit like I've shortchanged you now, so I'm going to say, if you still want 4 people, then you should go and chat to Kylie Yearsley, because she is again just a wealth of insight and information and knowledge, and again just a lovely human being.
So that brings me to indeed a very nice list of people to talk again here too. Well, Ceri, it's been a wonderful conversation that we've been having. I really would like to thank you for your time. If people want to reach out to you, what would be a good way for them to reach out to?
The only way you're going to get anything back from me is by getting in touch on LinkedIn. I'm afraid
And I hope that should be the link, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I'm pretty appalling at emails, and I'm totally overwhelmed with how many parent school groups I'm in on WhatsApp. So don't try and get a hold of me on WhatsApp. It's a dumpster fire. So yeah, LinkedIn, come and tap me up there.
Okay. Well, yeah. Leaves me just to thank you very much for your time. It's been a wonderful way to spend my evening with you. And yeah, to learn much more about your life story. Like with many of the conversations here, moving in all kinds of directions, and at the same time always circling back to very similar kind of things. So a really wonderful time for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your questions. That was glorious. Thanks.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.